Good morning. My name is Bud Synhorst, and I'm the owner of Robnick Strategies. We are a political consulting and government affairs, government relations firm. We do lobbying, we advise political candidates. And also, I am the host of the Speak Up podcast with Bud Synhorst, which is an opportunity for us to talk about things that they tell us we're not supposed to talk about when we are having family reunions or get togethers or what have you. And so my political interests really started in, ironically, 1984. As a young seventh grade student, I had the opportunity to attend the Electoral College in Nebraska. And a small group of students from our school, was able to go and attend and be a part of that. And while I was there, I got caught up in it and caught up in learning more about our political system and what have you, which kind of led me down a path of being very engaged politically over the years, which really kind of continued to culminate when I was the executive director of the Nebraska Republican Party for about 4 years, from 2013 through 2016, which was a fascinating time in not only Nebraska, but American politics. And then since then ran national associations, local business associations, while still being very involved in the political world and starting my own political consulting company. And so one of the things that I have always been an advocate for is to bring people to the table and to have a conversation. And I think conversations are very important to be had, regardless of where you stand on the political spectrum, regardless of your political ideology, regardless of your beliefs and your value system. It's important to have that dialogue. And it's ironic that we're live today on a day where we're mourning the loss of someone who was a very strong advocate for having that dialogue. And one of the things that I truly respected about Charlie Kirk was, number one, he always stood for his faith. He stood for his values. He stood for what he believed in. In addition to that, he welcomed you if you did not agree with him to come to the microphone and have a conversation. And regardless of whether you agreed with him or disagreed with him, he allowed you to be heard. He wanted to have that conversation. He was willing and open to have that conversation. He would listen to where you were coming from and really be able to provide that platform for both you, and obviously he had his own platform by which he shared his beliefs and his values. And for him to be assassinated while doing that is a true sad day in our country. And it's a sad day in the political world. It's a sad day in the world, period, that a man speaking his values, talking to others who don't agree with him, and having conversations and providing them an open platform, was killed in cold blood. Period. End of story. That is a horrible day in our country and a horrible day in our history. In the vein of what happened with Charlie Kirk and in his belief system of bringing people to the table and allowing them to be heard, that ability to speak our truth, I think really provides this opportunity today with David Vogel. David has quite a background and story that he wants to share. And so, David, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and just kind of give us the background of your story, and then we'll kind of get into the why it needs to be heard and all of those kind of things. So, David, kind of give us the background of why we're here today and what you want to talk about.
Well, we're here today because, frankly, government has gone crazy. Society has gone crazy. What happened with Charlie, it's not only tragic, it's just illustrative of the chaos and the insanity that's going on out there. And I have things in my life dealing with the government, and I mean, it's just insane. It's insane. Now, President Trump, in my personal situation, he did something, that's beautiful, that hopefully remedies my situation. Let me get into the specific details. We're talking about clemency, okay? And my clemency application was just recently wrongly terminated by the Department of Justice. That's Liz Oyer's former office. I've been, on LinkedIn, I've been lobbying against her. Trump fired her. I believe she ran a very corrupt office. I believe there are people still in the office loyal to her. Dealing with that office is chaos. But I'm also aware that Donald Trump, he appointed Alice Marie Johnson. She's the pardon czar. And that office, that I don't know what you want to call it, that position, that authority, that's outside of the DOJ, which I have been reporting on. And if you've been following me, there's so much corruption. I mean, the corruption was so bad that the pardon attorney under President Obama, she couldn't stomach it. She resigned. She had Sally Yates, basically null and voiding all her recommendations. And she thought the pardon office should be an office that communicates with the president. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be. And that's what it is with Alice Marie Johnson. And I have written her. I have, appealed to her. God knows on social media, I must have put out like 250, 300 pieces of content directed to her. But here's what I don't understand. What is the process, the official process, or is there one for applying through Alice Marie Johnson? I mean, President Trump, he has this beautiful, beautiful process in mind, in theory, but I'm asking you, as the former executive director of the GOP in Nebraska, how does this translate to what does someone do if they want to apply for clemency, for a pardon?
Well, I think it's intriguing to me that there doesn't seem to be a formal process, or if there is, it's very vague in what it is. And one of the things that I know that the president has really focused on was transparency in what's happening in government. And so it's intriguing to hear the story that this process is just, well, it's if there is a process, it's hard to find out what it is, right? How do we figure that out? So how have you been navigating that? Like, kind of explain how you've been trying to get through, the red tape.
Well, since I don't have Alice's phone number personally, I've been writing to her. She has an email address. I've been posting on social media. I'm sure I've been noticed. Okay. I was on Michael Francisi's podcast. Lara Trump is a big fan of Michael's. I'm sure I got noticed. Okay. The thing is, I believe getting noticed is only half the battle. Okay. I have to do something, that's worthy of getting clemency. Okay. Look, I don't think I'm going to get a fair shake with Liz Oyer's old office. I know Donald appointed someone to take her place. She was fired, but I don't think they're really focused on the mandate, the mission, and their mandate is very limited. I don't understand why they terminated my application. At the very least, they could give me what's known as a fresh start commutation. They didn't even give me that. course, I'm asking for a pardon. And the people that have gotten pardons, I mean, the people that Alice Marie, I think there were 26 of them, that Alice Marie Johnson recommended, okay, that was outside that DOJ process, okay? So all I could do was beg, I could communicate. I'm begging for an FBI investigation, because the very claim, I'm making in Liz Oyer's office wasn't a reason for clemency. And that's actual innocence. Okay. And I mean, it just boggles my mind. We have a Harvard defense attorney appointed by Joe Biden that publicly said actual innocence. It's not a criteria. What do they want? They only want people that were guilty who say, I'm guilty, but I'm redeemed. I'm redeemed, but honestly, Bud, I've been redeemed all my life. I didn't just, suddenly go straight when the handcuffs went on. All my life, I've devoted my life to helping kids. I devoted my life to Counsel for Unity, mentoring gang kids, stopping violence. I gave them a lot of money, but I also gave them my time. I preach every morning. I take Saturday off, but I'm here 6 days a week, 7 a.m. I'm preaching on LinkedIn. I've done that for over 2 years. Missing 1 day in 2 years. Okay, I do Bible studies, and I want to do more. You see, as part of my application to Liz Oyer, I'm sure she was probably finding it very amusing. I reached out to the head, someone else that Trump fired, by the way. What's her name? Colette Peters. She was the head of the BOP. I reached out looking to help, okay? And someone like me, someone who was inside that system, but someone who's C-suite, someone who I'm not going to be humble about this, someone who's wicked smart. Man, I could turn that system inside out. Hey, Bud, maybe I'll make you smile. Federal prisoners, they shouldn't carry guns. I mean, that shouldn't be allowed. What do you think?
Well, there's obviously a reason that that shouldn't happen. And the interesting thing is, how does that happen? And how are they getting in there? So there's a problem in our system, obviously.
Yes, and the thing is, Billy Marshall, he didn't create the problem, but Donald Trump, he tasked Billy Marshall to correct the problem. So the first thing I would hope, Mr. Marshall would admit there's a big problem with corrupt staff, especially in New York. Yeah.
So we've seen a lot of those kind of things happening. So let's take a minute just to figure out, okay, you're looking for the pardon and the clemency, and is it one or the other or both, or how are you kind of navigating that process? And then I think it might be good if people just had a brief, if they don't know the background, why is it that you're applying? Right? Like, what's the background to why you've gotten to this point where you're applying?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, obviously, if you've been
I think
following,
that's important, right? Like,
yeah,
we're
yes,
applying, trying to have this conversation, but like, what is it about?
right. It's about a criminal conviction, which I think was unjust, illegal, based on today's legal standards, based on the Supreme Court ruling, recently enacted. It would never stand, but that's another story. Okay. What I want to focus on is, obviously, if someone is convicted of a crime and they claim actual innocence and they don't have any recourse in the judicial system, clemency is a last resort. So my point is, Liz Oya, obviously with, Biden, however she ran her office, wanted people who were redeemed. Let's say you're redeemed, but you never committed the crime. I mean, technically, there should be an FBI investigation. The president has that resource. There are FBI employees, there are former agents that still work for the Federal Bureau of Investigation that do background checks. They would be so perfect for this type of work. Not just me, people that claim actual innocence and make a prima facie case to an FBI agent, okay, deserve an investigation. And I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just asking for an FBI investigation. I'm asking that my claim of actual innocence be considered. Okay. I mean, this is about truth. This is about justice. Okay. And, my case is so complex. We're not going to get it in 1 hour. We won't get into every detail. I pretty much summarized it in my interview with Michael Francis and Sherry Alperovich. Okay. I mean, I think people really should see those interviews. But what I want to focus on is the remedy, because I don't understand, and I'm going to respond to the DOJ just because I think you should, I want to hear what they have to say, but I am appealing and, begging that my case be considered outside the DOJ, which has a history of problems. I mean, look, the one thing I do want to rehash is I thought I had a real shot with clemency when Deborah Leff, when she was the pardon attorney. But what happened is every time she would make a recommendation to the president, Sally Yates at the DOJ, a prosecutor, hey, there's supposed to be an ethical divider. It's not right when the prosecutor decides who the pardon attorney pardons. But anyway, Sally Yates would, cut off her recommendation, and she couldn't stomach that, and she just resigned. She wrote a letter, a scathing letter, and I was so impressed with her ethics. But then, we had Liz Oya recently. I mean, look, think for yourself. Leonard Peltier, he got clemency. He executed 2 FBI agents, Bud. Adrian Peeler, what do you think of that? He killed an 8-year-old child.
So just trying to there's a lot to unpack with what you've got happening and what you've been trying to accomplish and how that's worked. So you've completed the application, you've submitted an application or request, and you've kind of followed the process through the pardons office, etc. Are you getting a response from them, or is it, how has that worked? Kind of walk us through where we're at with that right now and what happened.
Okay, I filled out an application with the DOJ several times, and several times I got refused. Okay, actual innocence, I mean, that's not a criteria. Whatever, Liz Oya used to deny me the first time, but she said, okay, I was angry, not angry in a verbally abusive way, but she just dismissed my claims. So I mean, sort of to appease me, she says, "Oh, file another one." But that's what I just got. We dismissed your claim, file another one. But I made a claim that this office still, I mean, the DOJ really still could consider, and that's, I mean, I'm asking for a full pardon. They very rarely do that. When people are given full pardons, at least with Donald Trump, he does that, through someone like Alice Marie. Okay, he doesn't do it through the DOJ, but I'm asking anyway. But they do have the authority, basically to say, well, what I call a commutation, where all my dealings with the government are over. Everything to do with my supposed crime is over. I'm given a fresh start, no obligations, nothing more, because right now, I still have obligations. I still have involvement with the government, which I am not happy about. I think the people who are involved with me right now, I'll use a term, ultra vires. They're acting beyond the scope of their authority. Okay. And I respect authority. But I mean, I'm sure, what that term ultra virus means. I mean, when I was luckily, when I was a guest of the federal government, until the very end, I never had any problems with abusive gods. Okay. A lot of people did. I avoided, the god, the correction officer that would act ultra virus. But when I was at the camp, I told Sherry this. There was a god, and like, if hypothetically, if I got clemency today, okay, one of the things I offered this to help Colette Peters. I would make the BOP a new place as their consultant, and I wouldn't act recklessly. I wouldn't say, hey, now I have all this power, this god that abused me, Masu, he's got a pass. I mean, he turned out to be, a nice guy in the end. But in the beginning, I call what I call the schadenfreude. And that is a big problem in the Bureau of Prisons. You have guards that just pick on people for no reason. They just get off on it. Schadenfreude. It stimulates their brain when they pick on someone. And I'm an old guy. And, I talked to Sherry how I handled that. We don't need to rehash that. But, right now, today, I'm still dealing with the ultra virus government official. And I really don't want to make this live about that today. What I'd like to do is have an opportunity to terminate it. The DOJ, they could, instead of dismissing my claim, they could have given me half a loaf. I mean, full pardon's great, but they could have given me, a fresh start commutation, because technically I'm still under their supervision. I just don't understand why they terminated me. But I'm also appealing, to Alice Marie, because she's a woman of God. She's a woman of justice, and she was appointed for that purpose. But like you said, okay, I mean, you asked, as executive director of the Republican Party, former director, you asked I mean, I've been thinking about this all weekend. When you asked me that brilliant question, Bud, what is the formal process?
Well, that seems like a basic question, because I think if they're going to offer, whether it's a pardon, a commutation, clemency, whatever it may be along the way, just what's the process? How do we go about that? And to be able to know what that process is does not seem to be an exorbitant request. It seems like a very simple, straightforward, what is the process? Let me know what that is. So
the process, could be me just praying. Alice, I pray. Just what I'd like is an FBI, FBI investigation, at the very least, because I'm going to be talking to another guy, Joe Maldonado. He was the Tiger King. I don't know if he's guilty or innocent, but he's making a very, very bold claim. He's saying he's in prison. This is his claim. He's actually innocent. Okay. And the witnesses against him perjured themselves, and he has evidence. Now, if he has evidence, I think at the very least, because he's applied for clemency too, again, the FBI or maybe a former FBI investigation agent, one of these agents working for the Bureau, they're retired. They still have the great skills, but they pay them a little bit less, so it's a bargain. Put someone like that on cases, that at least deserve an investigation. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Well, it makes sense to me. So who knows what that means to government?
Well, we have Trump. See, that's the thing with this program.
Yeah. Politician makes promise, doesn't follow through. Story at 11, right? I mean, but you're right. I mean, if we say we're going to do it, and we've got that,
and we have Alice Marie, she was appointed because, look, the DOJ. I mean, I'm even afraid to write them back because I'm writing back people who for 4 years prior to this, they worked for Liz Oyer, and Liz Oyer is suing Trump, and Trump fired her, and I'm not very kind to Liz Oyer because I'm being honest, because she said actual innocence is not a criteria for clemency. I mean, my mouth goes dry when I say that because it's just like, God help you. What is a criteria? Being guilty and saying I'm sorry. Okay.
And that's it. Like, that's their standard, is what it seems like. So you've talked a little bit, well, maybe more than a little bit, about appealing for an FBI investigation.
Yes.
And so talk about what that means and what exactly you're asking of the FBI.
Well, I'd like to tell an agent about my case and why I deserve a pardon, what I've been doing all my life. I mean, my point is, all my life, I've been living as if, I was redeemed, because when I was 26 and I was baptized, I was redeemed, and I lived an honest life, and I raised a family with 5 children, and I did such good work for charity all my life. I've been preaching all my life. Recently, I decided to preach full time, in addition to mentoring my son and helping with the various businesses and being a mentor and being a writer and being a podcaster. I mean, I've been doing this all my life. I think that would be apparent to an FBI agent. I worked with gang kids. I mean, this is long before I had any involvement in a negative way with the government. I was a friend to the prosecutor. I believe in law and order. I've always believed in law and order. But sometimes the system could be weaponized. It was weaponized against Donald Trump. It was weaponized against me because really there was a big political agenda against the Sackler family. And I ended up collateral damage. Also, I refused to plead guilty, and they punished me because I didn't plead. I didn't say I'm guilty. If I said I was guilty, it would have been real easy. It wouldn't have been such a big thing. But in the United States of America, I'm not entitled to a jury trial. If I ask for a jury, I mean, this bothers me a little, Bud, because that's another reason. The clemency, even the DOJ, the Department of Justice, which just refused me, the same DOJ which prosecutes, by the way, but they, they should be looking at cases where someone went to trial and got 660% of a sentence and a $25 million money judgment. Let me not even go there. They basically gave me this ridiculous lifetime punishment because I went to trial, because I had the audacity to exercise my rights. And right now, I continue to exercise my rights. And unless I get clemency, I'm going to be dealing with someone at the government. And I'll use those words, and we'll get more into this the next time if this issue isn't settled. But right now, I do have an issue where a government official is acting ultra vires, beyond the legal scope. Okay. And
so you essentially want an investigation from the FBI into your claim of innocence.
I mean, or anyone that
right.
claims, well, I think honestly, anyone, Joe Maldano too. I mean, anyone that makes a colorful, at least a prima facie case of innocence, with a clemency case. At least that's what I think. I love Alice because I've read so much about her, and she's a woman of God, and she's a woman of justice. She's a woman of fairness. I mean, that's what someone who is just, fair, godly, mindfully ethical. I mean, they want to at least investigate. I mean, if you check into me, if you really check into me, I mean, you'll find out all my life I've been a good guy. I mean, was I perfect? No. Did I have a troubled teenage upbringing? Yes, I was a scoundrel. I talked about that with Sherry. And maybe God, the Lord God, is paying me back right now. All these troubles I'm having for something at least I believe I did not do, at least in my mind. It's for something that I did do when I was a teenager that was awful. But outside of that, I led a good life. And if the FBI come in, I'm willing. I mean, Colette Peters laughed. Maybe Billy Marshall won't laugh. Prisoners, they shouldn't be carrying guns. I saw people carry guns. I saw drugs come into prison. I minded my business. I stayed alive. I wasn't there to do their job. But hey, if I was the deputy director's consultant, 24 hours, security, I have the security situation solved. I also would not, I got to say this, I would not allow any officer to commit schadenfreude. And there's a lot of officers that do that, and a lot of officers cover up. That's the biggest problem, the cover up. And schadenfreude isn't always a beating. It's when someone just picks on someone. Okay? And I had that happen to me once in 11 years. It wasn't pretty. I dealt with it. And, the way I dealt with it, the man became a nice man. Hopefully he'll stay nice. Mm-hmm. And, again, if hypothetically I got a pardon and I was, cleaning up the BOP, I give this guy a pass because that's the thing to do. But I would not allow schadenfreude. You can't have that. You can't have officers you can't have them bringing in guns, but that's what's happening. So until you acknowledge that and say, hey, I didn't make this mess. No one's going to blame me for making this, but there is a mess here. And David Vogel speaks the truth. I bet you right now, as we speak, in the federal prison system, someone's throwing a baseball over the wire into the prison yard that's full of some kind of drug.
So the whole FBI thing, is there a process whereby you can request the FBI to look at your case? And we've talked a lot about process and or lack thereof in the application process. Is there any kind of process related to the FBI where you can make that request?
Technically, if I'm requesting a pardon, the pardon attorney or whoever I'm requesting that pardon from, it could be, hopefully in this case, the pardon czar, her office, can request that the FBI do an investigation. Now, that costs money, and some of these attorneys, I think Liz Oya claimed they don't have money allocated for that. That's a lame excuse. Okay. I mean, the type of people that they gave clemency to did not deserve clemency. Okay. Uh, I, I mean, maybe a few people did. Don't get me wrong. There are some examples of Biden's, 2,600 grants of clemency. I mean, that they're wonderful. They make a great poster, but some of them make a poster for disaster. I mean, how do you give clemency to someone who murders an 8-year-old kid? I mean, I just can't get over that.
So you talked a little bit about your time within the prison system and all of that when you were caught in that system. You kind of mentioned here just a second ago. What how long were you there, and then what were the kind of things that you went through? Like, I know you said there were things that you saw, but what kind of things did you go through when you were in there?
Well, first of all, at least under prior management, I'm not talking for Billy Marshall. I know he's talking about reform. Okay, there was nothing to unify the prisoners. There was nothing like what I call counsel for unity, which, hey, if I was deputy director or just made deputy consultant, whatever you want to call me, I would put a counsel for unity type of program to eliminate violence, because I saw a lot of evil. I mean, that was the worst thing about being there. So much evil. And people, their thinking, their thinking patterns were evil. And the one thing, if they're going to be reformed, we need to correct those thinking patterns. And there was nothing in place to do that. And Council for Unity, this is the organization I've been involved with. Okay. We've done miracles in prison. Okay. And the references, okay, I told this to, the Colette Peters, I'm sure it was very funny, but the references happen to be the Commissioner of Corrections, for New York State, because the fact is, if you talk to people, you get people to reform, but you got to talk to them. You have to have a program in place. So that's the first thing I would do. The second thing, which you could say the only good thing about prison was the animals. When I was in the camp, I took care of the dogs. I ran a dog training program. I would put animals everywhere, because animals and Council for Unity, a 1-2 punch. I would do this almost instantly. Okay, I would have a program in place. Okay, because you should see how inmates get around animals. I mean, they break down. Tough guys act goofy. So, that's something else I would do. And I would just, basically, I mean, you asked the question. I actually did like a little sidestep, because I wanted to say what I would do if, I got a pardon and I'm here to help. And I'm going to do these crazy things that maybe Billy Marshall doesn't think it's that crazy. I mean, Colette Peters probably thought I was Looney Tune. But that's what I do. I mean, because if I deserve clemency, I mean, look, Alice Marie, she's doing great work. And the thing is, I think I have to convince the president that I'm capable of great things and doing great work. And I'm going to continue to do it. I'm not going to do it for the first time because that would be a lie. All of a sudden, I'm redeemed. Okay? But even if I wasn't innocent, if I'm redeemed, I mean, that is a basis for clemency. I'm just saying I'm innocent and redeemed. I was punished. And this is another reason to get clemency, being punished just for saying I'm not guilty, exercising my American right to go to trial. But, I'm sure Donald Trump knows what it means to be prosecuted for something you didn't do. But
yes,
you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
And I wanted to be transparent with you. I sent you my notes. I want you to ask any questions that you have.
Mm-hmm. Now, go back a little bit more. You kind of mentioned Joe Maldonado briefly. Talk a little bit more about Joe, and I think you guys are doing some stuff together, right? Or what do you?
I wrote Joe. He made a very bold statement, and he's on social media. And that's why I believe, at least I'm noticed. When you put out 100 billboards that Liz Oya, violated their own guidelines and all the stuff she did that I thought was awful, and how Deborah Leff, naming names, resigned, which is true because the office, was corrupt. Okay. Mm-hmm. You got to get noticed. I'm sure Joe got noticed. He claims in his social media communications that the White House is looking into his case. And I think, given his claim, which I find amazing, okay, it should be investigated 100%. It sounds like to me there's some basis to his claim, because witnesses do lie. Okay. And if the witnesses, supposedly in his case, they made statements under oath that they did lie, I mean, to me, that's a mess. At the very least, if they're not committing perjury for the government, they're committing perjury for Joe. So they committed perjury. So I'm not going to say who they committed perjury for. They committed perjury. So I'm very suspect about their testimony. And Joe, he could be in jail for something he didn't do. But remember, under Joe Biden, you got to execute 2 FBI agents to be considered for clemency.
How are you and Joe's stories? Seems like there's a lot of parallels here. Talk about kind of how parallel stories and working together, and where you think it can benefit like each other from the similarities.
I think the best thing that could come out of this podcast is that Alice Marie formally take over the clemency process. I don't even think it should be in the DOJ. I mean, Trump appointed Alice Marie Johnson as clemency czar, give her a staff, give her access to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, let her run it, and let's create some kind of formal process. Because I don't think clemency, it really doesn't belong in the DOJ anyway. It never worked before. It's been a disaster. The lawyers working at the DOJ, I'm sure they could find other work at the DOJ.
Okay.
I mean,
Um,
that's just my opinion. Now, look,
so
I'm gonna reply to them. I'm probably gonna send Alice. I'm gonna edit this a little bit. This is our live version. Everyone sees it with mistakes and all our scars. But
so what you're saying is you're going to make me look better when you edit this.
I
That's
can.
key. Like right at the end of the day, we care about that, right? You're going to make me look better. I'm all about that. So, um,
I just want to be heard by the president. Okay. And in all seriousness, I mean, I think I could help Billy Marshall because what I proposed, to get clemency, I sent this in my application to Liz Oya. This is what I'm going to do. Okay. I want to do something great. Why else? I mean, give me clemency unless I'm going to do something great. I want to work with Colette Peters. I think I could be a great messenger to all the gangsters, all the inmates. Because remember, it's not just the message, it's the messenger. And my church, the Church of Unity, I mean, I'd recruit. I mean, I'm sure I'd recruit. You have 100,000 inmates. I'd recruit like 50,000. I bet. We'd set them. We'd set them on the straight and narrow path, and I'd also train them. Okay, I know a lot about solar energy. We could set up a training facility to train them, and we could do that online, just the way I'm talking to you. I could talk to tens of thousands of people and help them. Okay, and that's what I want to do. Okay, yeah, I mean, since I was there, I'd want to get rid of Schadenfreude. That's really bad for business because you can't have corrupt officers picking on people, and you certainly can't have bad security. And right now, security sucks, but it wouldn't be that way 24 hours after I took over. I mean, seriously, put me on the other side. I mean, I know that's a very bold claim, but you should see what I've seen, bud.
probably don't want to be honest.
No,
Um,
I mean, yes, but what I'm saying is the inmates, they're running rings around the correction offices as far as smuggling goes. Yeah, put me in charge. That's not that ends day one. But I'd also be very humane. You can't have officers picking on anyone, okay? And you can't have, I mean, the food. If you didn't know how to navigate the system, the diet. I mean, I'm not saying it's the diet you'd get at the concentration camp, but it used to be pretty damn bad. And I'd say it used to be pretty inhumane. Now, Billy Marshall, I listened to his speech. He said that changed. That's a little thing. But I got to say, you want people to behave. You want violent people to stop being violent. You want to feed them properly. Because when you feed them a lot of carbohydrates, that makes them more violent. That's all I'm saying on that. But really, I can help with security. I can help set a program like Council for Unity. I did this. I survived. I survived because I really, when I was there, I wasn't the security officer. God, I mean, but hey, I mean, I have so many stories, and we've been talking a while. Is there anything that
well, I
you
think
want to make, or any questions or
you've
subjects
been
you want
through a lot.
clarified?
You've been through a lot, and I imagine that you're probably pretty exhausted just from dealing with all this, right? It's got to be an exhaustive thing, but I imagine it's taken a toll on you just generally, physically, mentally, all of that. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I'm getting older, okay, and I admit I really I need to follow advice because I'm giving good advice. And I haven't been meticulously following up on doctor's appointments and taking care of my health I was ill. I got better. But one day I'm going to wake up ill and not get better. So I really, yeah, I need to take care of myself. I need to go to the doctor. Anyone my age, okay, they really need to get checked thoroughly, okay, because I mean that's just good advice, and I can't argue with good advice. And
Yeah.
you know, when I got sick, I didn't go to the doctor. I mean, I'll get better, but really, I need to go for a very thorough checkup. I've been advised, and that's good advice.
Now you just got to take it.
Yeah.
So as we try to kind of wrap up here today, I call it let's land the plane here a little bit. What are you looking for people to walk away with? And, you know, maybe is there any kind of a call to action along here as well?
A call to action. Really and truly, what would change my life, a call to action. Uh, I get a call from Donald. I have a full and unconditional pardon. Keep up the good work. I'm cleaner than a baby's bottom. Okay. That was my dream last night. Then I woke up. The alarm clock rang. I'd at least like to know that the FBI is talking to me. I mean, yeah, I mean, that would, best case scenario, Donald doesn't call, Alice calls, someone from her office, someone from the government. I got a full and unconditional pardon. Or I got, hypothetically, the DOJ. They looked at my application again and said I got a fresh start commutation. Outside of that, I'd like to hear from the FBI. I'll tell them some good stories. I will tell you that. I promise I'm going to talk about things I'm not going to talk about live on the air right now, like being in prison and see people throw baseballs full of drugs over the fence. Hey, it's going on right now. Billy Marshall, I really can help, because that wouldn't go on my watch. That's a bold statement. But I'm also a business guy. Remember, I'm a C-suite guy. That wouldn't go on. Okay?
So is there a takeaway you want people to take away from this, or how do you want that to kind of, as we wrap it up?
Well, I just need to spread the word. Last time I did an interview with Sherry, we got, well, combined probably about 130,000 impressions. If I get a call from Donald Trump, I'd be, I mean, obviously ecstatic. I don't know if my heart could take it though. That would be funny. You know, talk about going to the doctor on heart problems.
Yeah.
You know, but I'd at least like to talk to the FBI. I'd like to know there's a process in place. Okay, with not just for me. Okay, because look, I'm a pastor, I'm a minister. This has to be about more than just me. You know, I'm pausing for a second because just thinking about this is about everyone in the United States of America that's been accused of something and has no recourse in the courts. Okay? Everyone should have the opportunity to ask the president, if it's a federal crime, for clemency. And everyone should be able to say they're actually innocent, you know, as a criterion. I mean, it's up to the FBI to say this guy's either a kook. Okay, maybe they dismiss it in 10 seconds. Oh, this guy murdered 6 people. He's saying he's actually, okay, you know, next. At least, you know, someone who is a former special agent. Maybe they're not a special agent today, but they're a former special agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They're probably an attorney, very meticulous, the top law enforcement personnel in the United States of America. The very best get to be FBI. They're a veteran. They're retired. They're working for the Bureau, doing background checks. They could be doing jobs like this. So if I hear from an FBI guy, I'd be very happy. If I hear from Alice, hey, you pardoned? At the very least, I'd like, maybe we do this in 2 parts. I mean, Alice Marie, by the way, she was given a commutation and a pardon in 2 parts. First, her sentence was commuted, and then, later on, President Trump pardoned her. If right now you gave me a fresh start commutation, I would be very, very thankful. Just for today, I'd love a pardon, but a fresh start commutation would allow me to focus, on my ministry, on doing good, on helping, and not dealing with government officials. And I'm going to, be following up on this if necessary. I'm trying to work it out. But government officials who are ultra vires, okay, going beyond the scope of the law, beyond the scope of their authority. Officer Masu is one of them, okay? And again, he's got to pass McFarland. No, I'd fire McFarland. If I ever got in a position like the deputy director, I got a pardon. McFarland is just pure evil. I dealt with him at the BOP. Okay, he thought he was protecting Trump. He actually remanded Michael Cohen to solitary confinement. I say, if you have a stupid person and they want to speak, don't shut them up. Let them talk. Why do you want to shut up a stupid person? But no, McFarland, he had Michael Cohen remanded to solitary confinement. And whether you agree with him or not, that was torture. I mean, you don't put an old man in 100-degree temperature, but that's another story. But anyway, we've been talking. Looks like, wow, it's 56 minutes. Is there anything you want to address? And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate mail. I get a lot of fan mail. I tell my people this. I get a ton of fan mail. I get a ton of hate mail every day. So
it comes from both sides. I guess I'm kind of at the end looking at, we're ending where we started in my perspective of the ability to be heard and the ability to speak your truth and the ability to share that information. And, people can kind of decide where they stand on it, what they believe on it, or how they want to react to it, right? Like that, to me, we've kind of ended, like we've gotten through all that. And I'm ending with that same message that I started with of, giving people a platform to be able to speak and talk about those kind of things. And, they can make their own decisions. People are going to anyway, right? You get fan mail, you get hate mail.
And it's crazy out there what's happening. I mean, what happened with Charles, I mean, and then this bothers me just as much. I have people I've known for 10, 20 years, and they're concerned about the citizens that Trump is killing. Okay, and I say, yes, let's kill some more of those citizens. Let's kill some drug lords, these overlords, whatever you want to call them in Mexico. We could figure out who they are. They are enslaving women. They're forcing women to commit depraved acts every single day. They gotta go. They committed an act of war. They committed an act of war by being the most evil, sadistic type of person alive. I know, you see my cross. This is real. Mm-hmm. This isn't fake. I'm a preacher, but I'm praying for military action. So also this broadcast is not just about me. Okay. the president of Mexico, she is bought and paid for by the cartel. Let's not waste time. She's not going to agree to a strike. Let's just save the women. That's all I want. That's how I want to end, because, you know, I'm a big lover of the women of Mexico, and I'd like to help. Also, hopefully, I pray, influence, you know, Trump's policy, because he's getting a lot of criticism. I'm being called a lot of awful things. And I'm saying that the Bible, okay, the Bible tells us there is time to be a warrior. There is a time when you need to be a general. And the people in Venezuela that were recently attacked, they're not citizens. They're very evil people. I mean, think about what you have to do to end up on President Trump's kill list. I mean, you got to be pretty damn bad. I mean, come on. Just think about that one thing. To make his kill list, I mean, you might make his enemy list, but to make his, you got to go, you're an evil person. But
absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate the time. I appreciate you asking me to kind of help you guide through this conversation, and we'll look forward to you sharing the edited version.
We'll be sharing that in the next couple of days. I always do a live first, because I want my community manager on LinkedIn to know everything I do is authentic. And I'm kind of being vulnerable, you know, talking about this, but I'm very transparent on LinkedIn. You know, my position is the government has gone crazy. And I think we have a president that at least agrees with that in concept. The government has gone crazy, and it's going to take someone very disruptive to end this craziness. So, yes, you know, bottom line from all this, I hope there is a process in the future for people other than me, people who aren't as aggressive, you know, to file for mercy relief, for clemency with the pardon czar, you know, who's Alice Marie. And I'm filing now. Well, I filed by communicating with you. I'm just, you know, begging that the president is listening. Thank you, Bud. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
God be with you. Bye-bye.
Take care.